So this is the topic number 2 test review homework video. So I'm going to go over the 6 assigned problems from the test review. Number 1 gives you a list of 12 numbers and they tell you that the mean or x bar is 7. Part A wants you to find the two missing values, x and y. So we're going to use the fact that we have the mean is 7 and we know there's 12 numbers. So I'm going to set up a mean equation, an average equation. So I summed up all the numbers that were given and divided it by 12 because that's how you find an average, and set that equal to 7. If you add up all the numbers you know, you get 69, so 69 plus x plus y divided by 12 is equal to 7. Multiply both sides by 12, so you get 69 plus x plus y is equal to 84. So if you subtract 69 from both sides, x plus y is equal to 15. So now we're going to use that to do part B, which asks, given that the mode of the numbers is 8 and x is less than y, find the values of x and y. So if the mode is 8, we know that that one shows up the most. So that means that one of these has to be an 8. If x is less than y, then I'm going to let y be equal to 8. 15 minus 8 is 7, so that means x is equal to 7 using this relationship that we just found. So part C now, we want to find the median. So to find the median, we order the numbers from smallest to biggest. So I ordered from smallest to biggest, then 12, there's 12 numbers, so the 6.5 number is the median. So 6 and 7 are both 8, so take the average of those two, that ends up finding a median of 8. So now we want to find the lower and upper quartiles. So Q1 is the average of the lower half of the numbers, or the median of the lower half of the numbers. So there's 6 numbers here. So the median would be between the third and fourth number. So it's going to be 5 plus 6 divided by 2, the average of them. So you end up with 5.5. Then the Q3, or the upper quartile, is the median of the upper half of the data. So that'd be between numbers 9 and 10. So you have 9 plus 9 divided by 2. So your Q3 is equal to 9. The last part wants you to find the inner quartile range, or the IQR. The IQR, that equation is on your formula sheet. It's Q3 minus Q1, which we just found those two. So 9 minus 5.5, the inner quartile range is 3.5. So number 2 is looking at the tuition fees for 65 schools in the USA, and part A wants you to find the interval in which the median lies. So if there's 65 schools, that means that the 32.5th school is going to be where the median lies. So in this case, I'm adding up the frequencies until I find the interval in which that 32.5th school would lie, which would be between 25,000 and 30,000. Part B wants to find the modal group, which is the group that has the highest frequency, which is the same interval, the 25,000 to 30,000. So for part C, you want to estimate the mean value. So in order to do that, we need to find the mid-interval points of all the intervals. So I did that. Each one just is 2,500 above the lowest or below the highest. And then continue with this frequency. So then I use my graphing calculator, with this being in list 1 and this being in list 2, and use the one variable stats to find the mean to be $25,500. Part D wants you to construct a cumulative frequency graph on your graph paper. So in order to aid me with this, I created a cumulative frequency column to my table. So adding up your cumulative frequencies here on this next step. So part D wanted us to graph the cumulative frequency graph. So across the bottom axis, you have the upper class bounds, and across the vertical axis, you have the cumulative frequency. Make sure you label this. I cut it off. So this is what your cumulative frequency would look like. Part D wants you to, this is part D. Part E wants you to find the median using your graph. So we know that the median is going to fall in the 32.5th school. So if you go up on the vertical axis, find 32.5, draw a horizontal line across and a vertical line down, you will find that the median falls at 28,000. Part E2 wants you to find your IQR, which is your Q3, your upper quartile, minus your Q1, your lower quartile. So your lower quartile, your Q1, occurs 25% of your way into your data. So if there's 65 data points, that would be after number 16.25. So right about there, I drew a horizontal line across, and then once it hit the graph, a vertical line down, and found that Q1 is about 22,000. If you do the same thing with your Q3, so that's 75% of the way into your data, that's about 48.75. So right around there, you're going to draw a horizontal line across. Once you hit your graph, you hit a vertical line down, and that's about 31,000. So you end up with an IQR of 9,000. Part F wants you to find a box and whisker plot given a minimum of 5,000 and a maximum of 35,000. You already found your Q1, your median, and your Q3 based off your cumulative frequency table, so then you just create your box and whisker plot off of that. Number 4 gives you data on the number of text messages students received in a 24-hour period, and the first question wants you to find the total number of students surveyed. So on this far right column is the cumulative frequency table. The very bottom last entry of the cumulative frequency table is always your total number surveyed, so our total number surveyed is 50. So the next one wants you to find the 4 missing values in the table C, D, E, and F. So for C, it's here in the frequency table. You know that for the cumulative frequency, when we go up this step here, it adds 4. So that means this frequency right here had to be 4. So we know that C has to be 4. Similarly, for F, in this cumulative frequency right here, we go up 3. So that means that this frequency right here had to be 3. So we know that F has to be 3. So for E, right here we have this frequency of 6, so that means to go from E to 47, we added 6. So if we added 6, go backwards, subtract 6, we know that E had to be 41, and then that helps us find D. If we know that this is 41, we add 8 to get from 33 to 41, so that means that D had to be an 8. Number 7 gives us the cumulative frequency graph for 50 countries with populations between 8 million and 56 million people. For part A1, we want to find the median population of countries. So median happens halfway through your data. If we have 50 data points, that means the median is going to happen after the 25th one. So at the 25th data point on the side, I'm going to start to draw a line. Once it hits my cumulative frequency curve, I'm going to head down and figure out what that population there is. The median population ends up being 17 million people. The second question asks the number of countries with a population of less than 43 million. So we know the population, so we're going to start on the population side and connect it to the frequency side. I found 43 million down on the bottom here, and I drew a line up to my curve. Once I hit my curve, I headed over to the cumulative frequency, and we can see that 46 countries have a population of 43 million or less. Part 3 says what percentage of countries have a population greater than 36 million. So again, we know our population, so we're going to start on the population axis. So I started on the population axis, I found 36, I headed up to the curve. As soon as I hit the curve, I headed over, and we find that 42 countries have a population of less than 36 million. So that means that 8 out of the 50 have a population of greater than 36 million, and since we want percentage, plug this in your calculator and you figure out that this is 16% of the total surveyed. Part B wants us to find the box and whisker diagram that represents this population distribution, so that means we need a 5-number summary. Our min, our median, and our max we can read right off. Our min and our max we can read right off. Our median we already found up in part A. So now we just need to find Q1 and Q3. Q1 is 25% of your way into your data, which is 12.5 countries. So if you go 12.5 or about 12 in, go to the curve and go down, you'll find that's 11 million population. And then Q3 is 75% of your data in, which is about 37.5. So if you draw a line in at about 37.5 at your frequency and then go down, you'll get about a 27 for your Q3. Use all this to find your Box-and-Whisker plot. You have your minimum of 9 and your maximum of 56. Your Q1 should be 12, not 11. And then you have your median of 17 and your maximum of 27 or 27.5. So for number 8, here are the two histograms. Here's the one for the males and here's the one for the females. So part B, the modal class, the males, the modal class is 15 to 30 pounds. For females, the modal class is 0 to 15 pounds. For part C, plugging everything in your calculator, males, you get your mean, your x bar to be this, which simplifies down to 36.1, your standard deviation to be this, which is 26.7. Females, you get your mean to be 32.4 and your standard deviation to be 24.1. So the last one, number 10, gives you a histogram with distances traveled by salesmen. Part A wants you to determine the number of journeys made, so we're just going to add up all the frequencies. So if you look at the bar heights for each of the bars on the histogram, add them all up, you'll find that there was 60 trips made by these salesmen. Part B1 wants you to find the modal distance, so the highest bar on the histogram falls in the 130 to 150 kilometer bar. And the next one is median distance. So if there's 60 trips, that means the median distance falls on the 30th and a half trip. So if you add up these until you get to that point, you'll find that that will fall in also the 130 to 150 kilometer range. So part C wants you to find in 1 the mean distance traveled and in 2 the standard deviation. So we're going to use our graphing calculators, but to do that you need to find the mid-interval values of each of the classes. So that's what this is here. So in your calculator you will put this one, the mid-intervals, in as list 1 and your frequencies in as list 2 and calculate the one variable stats for it. So when you do so, you end up with 146.33333333, which if you round it to three significant figures would be 146 kilometers. So remember, you can either leave it exactly how your calculator writes it or write it in 3 sig figs. Similarly, with the standard deviation, you end up with 30.43937508, which you can either leave it that way or round to 3 significant figures, which would be 30.4 kilometers.